and I wanted them to know that the workers were not a concern of ours, that we could just let it go and just go on about our normal daily life and routine without any big concern. And so here's what I decided to do. And it ended up working out really well. So I was sitting at my desk. The workers came unexpectedly early. They were not supposed to come until the next day, but they decided to come and get some preliminary work done because they had finished their earlier job like early, you know what I mean? So I was unprepared and we were all taken by surprise. So they showed up and I was sitting at my desk and puppies ran to the door and some of the adult dogs, got up and like, what's happening? And so what I decided to do was just get up from my desk. Hi, I'm Kathy Kowalik, and I believe that our dogs connect us to the heart and soul of what really matters in life. So hang out, and we'll take a deep dive into the human-dog connection and explore strategies that will inspire you to create legendary, enlightened partnership with your dog. This is the Enlightened by Dogs podcast. Well, hello, Kathy Kowalik here, your host of Enlightened by Dogs. And today I am going to share with you some real life examples of what my life is with my own dogs, and with the intention of helping you to model off of what I'm going to share with you so that your dogs can model what you are going to role model for them. Okay. It's pretty cool. And we have the ability to be role models and to help our dogs understand how we do things. And it's such a simple philosophy and principle that we can adopt in our life, because dogs easily, naturally, organically, by design, mirror our behavior, just like humans mirror each other's behavior. This is how we learn how we do things, right? And so because dogs easily mirror our behavior, that means that we learn how to be responsible for our own behavior with intention, so that our dogs start to learn better how we do things. All right. And so I'm going to give you 3 examples from my own life with my dogs from over the past years that are just really simple and what I think are really clear examples that you could really resonate with and kind of wrap your brain around how this works. And then after the 3 examples, I'm going to give you some strategies for where to start, right? Because in order for role modeling to work well with your own dogs, you'll need to start with some foundation principles. There's some things that you need to have in place. And so I'll be sharing 4 steps to help you get that going. All right. So let me start with the first example. So these all go back a few years, but I've talked about them before, and they're kind of top of mind because I've been getting some questions around this, and I've been thinking about these examples that I have shared with you in the past, and I love sharing them because they are so simple. Okay. So one of the issues that is pretty common is that our dogs are barking at things outside the house, noises or things that are happening outside the house. And so I've got 2 different examples of how I use role modeling to circumvent over arousal and reactivity and dogs going crazy about what is happening. All right. So the first example is a few years back when I had some landscaping being done around the house. So like all the foundation plantings that are like right adjacent, like next to the house. And so we had a sizable crew of landscapers come in and tear out all of our really old and outdated and overgrown landscaping and then replace it. And so picture that I've got a crew of landscaping guys all around the house, like all with, you could see them through all the windows and every room of the house, like on all sides of the house. And they're loud. They have equipment. They have a bobcat, and they have things that make a lot of noise. Plus they're playing like a radio and they're talking like amongst each other. So it was loud and noisy and active and visible. And of course, I work from home, and I not only record podcasts, which I'm doing right now, but I also do a lot of like live classes and live coaching calls, and I record things. And so we have routines, and my dogs understand how we do things. Like when mama is working, they're quiet. And of course, I ensure that their needs are met, etc. So that makes that possible, right? All right. So I've got this crew working around the house, and my dogs, we went out for our morning routine. They had their fun and play. We went for a walk. And then they know that what we do next is I go to work and they just hang out. They just lay around until like the afternoon, and then we like usually do stuff. And then we have dinner and all that. Okay. So the crew was going to be here for like at least 3 full days, maybe a little bit longer. And so the first day went fine, right? I role modeled, like I took the dogs out. We came in, they went to sleep. They went down, they went quiet, just like our normal stuff, and no big issues at all. The second day was a little bit interesting, and this is the incident I want to tell you about. So we came in, and the dogs kind of went down before the workers came, and Lukey was out in the sunroom in the back, and he was sleeping, and I didn't want to disturb him. So I closed the door out to the sunroom where he was sleeping so that the noise inside the house would be less, because I was about to do a live coaching call. And so I closed the door and left him out there sleeping by himself and started my class. Well, about halfway through, he woke up, and like the workers they did something extra noisy, and he woke up and he was locked out of the house. He wanted to come in, and he started kind of woofing, like, not so much at the workers, although a little bit, but kind of a halfway between woof, woof, there's something going on, and woof, woof, I want to come in with everybody else, right? But I was in the middle of a live coaching call, and I thought, well, I think hopefully he'll be okay. So I'll just kind of breathe through it and see what happens. Well, then Katie, who's a very excitable dog, she was pretty young at the time, and she woke up and she started kind of getting a little antsy and a little vocal, mildly, by the workers. So like, she's like, okay, is there something going on that I should be worried about? And I had to make a quick in the moment decision. What am I going to do about this? Right? Should I tell everyone on the call, hang on, I'll be right back? Do I need to intervene with the dogs? What do I need to do? So I decided to experiment with just role modeling calm. This is no concern of ours. And so I just kept on coaching, on the life coaching call, I took a couple of deep breaths and intentionally sending like the vibe to my dogs that everything is fine, we're calm, nothing is out of the ordinary. There's nothing to be concerned about. Everyone can just go back to grazing and go back to sleep, and I'll be done in a little bit. And so that's what I did. And within a couple minutes, Lukey just went and laid down. He went back to sleep. Katie just went back to sleep. And everything worked out really well. And then I was able to finish my coaching call. And then I, engaged with the dogs and told them how much I loved and appreciated them. And that was it. And then we had, an enjoyable rest of our afternoon kind of hanging out, and I did some work. And anyway, everything was good. So that was just a great example where it certainly was an experiment, but it worked out really well. And the next day, the workers, finished their work, etc. And it was good. And so to give you the full picture, I had no yard. So the workers were in my front yard and in my backyard, and they were here from early in the morning until dusk. And so we got our exercise in the morning, and then the dogs, including my young dogs, my puppies, my whole pack of border collies, we stayed in the house all day until they were gone at dusk. Now, a couple of times I did have to take a dog out on a leash to go pee, someone, had to go pee, and it was no big deal. I just took that dog out to pee and we came back in, and it was really well. So there's a perfect example of how, when we have this lifestyle established, we can do things like this. Like, this is a real solid possibility. All right, so a very similar situation. So this is example number 2. A very similar situation was when we had a work crew come in to work on the sunroom itself. So we had some roof damage and a roof leak, and that caused damage in the window framing and the wall. It was kind of a mess. And so the workers had to come and repair the roof in one section of the sunroom, and then they had to remove a big window. Like, the sunroom was all windows. They had to remove a big section of window and replace the framing and the wall and the siding. So it was kind of a big project in one corner of the room. This is my sunroom. And so I've got a door in between the main house and the sunroom, but it's like a French door. So it's like a full glass door and side lights. So 2 big giant windows, basically. And so these guys are basically in our house working and making noise, and they've got drills and hammers, and they're pounding, and they're, it's really loud and active. All right. So that's the picture that you could visualize. And at the time, I had 2 puppies that were under 6 months old. So, they were young puppies. So of course, they're border collies. And this was Katie and Dylan. They had to figure out how we do things when we have strangers and workers making lots of loud noises inside our house, etc. The workers came the first day, and I had to make a decision. Okay, what am I going to do about this? How am I going to handle showing the puppies what we do, how we do things as a family? And I wanted them to know that the workers were not a concern of ours, that we could just let it go and just go on about our normal daily life and routine without any big concern. And so here's what I decided to do. And it ended up working out really well. So I was sitting at my desk. The workers came unexpectedly early. They were not supposed to come until the next day, but they decided to come and get some preliminary work done because they had finished their earlier job like early, you know what I mean? So I was unprepared and we were all taken by surprise. So they showed up. And I was sitting at my desk and puppies ran to the door and some of the adult dogs, got up and like, what's happening? And so what I decided to do was just get up from my desk calmly and mindfully and happily and lightheartedly and walk into the kitchen and have a little name game cookie session with whoever decided to come in with me. And so that's what I did. I just kind of smiled in my heart, smiled on my face, walked into the kitchen. So the puppies were at the door, kind of like barking and getting excited about what they're seeing. And I just walked right past them into the kitchen. And a couple of the adult dogs decided to come with me, and some of the others heard me open the cookie jar. It has like a little clink clinky sound, our dogs always know the sound of the cookie jar, right? And so a couple of the adult dogs had got up with me. A couple of others heard me heard the clink and heard me start to do name game. I just started calling names and giving cookies, etc. And it was fun. So we just started having a little name game fun. And within about like 5 seconds, what happened was the puppies came into the kitchen with us and they just joined us in name game cookie time. So it was just like natural and organic. I didn't call them. I didn't entice them. I just did what we do. And they like, oh, okay, I guess we're going in the kitchen for name game cookies, right? And it was really, really cool. And so we just did that for a couple of minutes. And then that's it. I put the lid back on the cookie jar. I came back in, sat down, went back to work, right? Easy peasy, nothing. And what did the adult dogs just kind of went back to sleep. And that's what the puppies did too. They just went and laid down and went for their nap. And the workers just like worked for a little, like another hour or something. No big deal. Well, the next day, the workers came and I was a little bit more prepared this time because they came as expected. And as soon as I knew they were here, they came around the back of the house and the puppies ran to the door again. They didn't bark this time. They were just like curious. And so I got up, I went into the kitchen. That was my intention. I'm going to get up and I'm going to repeat what was successful yesterday, right? Because I thought that was really successful. So I thought I'll just repeat that role modeling. No concern of ours. This is what we do. No reason to be excited or reactive or anything like that. And that was my plan, and I was going to work my plan. So I got up and I started to walk to the kitchen. Well, the puppies left the door on their own and they ran ahead into the kitchen ahead of me and waited for me to come in, and we did our little name game cookie taking turns thing. And I did that for like just a few seconds, told them how much, of course, name game involves connection, heart connection and love and appreciation and really feeling connected, right? And so all my dogs love that. Your dogs will love that too. So just a couple seconds really of that. And then I came back to my desk and went back to work. And that was it. The puppies glanced out of the door, looked at the workers, and then just went and did stuff like on their own. And that's how it went the whole rest of the day without any incident, no barking, no worries. And the dogs looked out the window, saw the workers and went on, and they were not disturbed by that at all. And that is the power of role modeling. Okay, one more example of how effective this is. So this is a story about Dylan when he was a puppy. And he was around 9, somewhere in the like 9 to 11 month old range. And I noticed that he was starting to notice things up in the sky with a level of keenness that was concerning to me, because I have certainly worked with clients over the years where that had dogs that were OCD about things, including like things up in the sky, and definitely, have worked with clients and students over the years whose dogs became obsessed with wildlife, like squirrels and rabbits and things like that. And so when I noticed Dylan starting to get really like locked in of things happening in the sky, like birds and helicopters, or like low flying planes, like because we live out in the country, and so he started really alerting to like birds and things in the sky, right? And I thought, okay, I'm going to nip this in the bud, and I had to decide, what am I going to do? And so I decided to do it, to teach him how we do things. This is how we run our lives. This is how our family operates, through role modeling, because it's such a powerful thing that all social mammals learn through mirroring other family members. That was what I decided to do as a strategy. So, first thing is, I realized how often I look up in the sky because I love birds and I'm really interested in, the wildlife, etc. And of course, everybody would look up if a helicopter or a small plane was flying overhead. It's just kind of natural, right? If something's flying over your head, to look up. So I realized that I look up at the sky a lot because we have a lot of birds, and we have like songbirds and hawks and a beautiful array, herons and egrets and geese and sandhill cranes. Like we just have a lot of birds that fly overhead, and I love birds and I love wildlife. Okay, so first thing was, I realized I was modeling for my dog that there's a lot of things of interest up in the sky. And so I decided to change that for now, so that Dylan, my young, impressionable dog, could learn that things that are up in the sky are not all that interesting to us. And so I decided to not look up in the sky at all, to the best of my ability, for at least a few days, to see what effect that would have on my puppy. And so that was my commitment, and I worked my plan. I planned my work and I worked my plan, and it went really well. So it was hard for me because I look in the sky a lot, but I did it. And what I noticed was, after just a couple days, that he was looking up in the sky much less than he had been. And I thought, okay, yay, this is a great strategy. I'm going to keep on. So I did that for a couple more days, where I really tried not to look up in the sky. Okay. I focused on the ground. Like, what are we doing? I was more present with the dogs and more present with what was happening, like, around us. And I spent a little bit more time being more intentionally connected with Dylan, especially if I noticed that he was looking up. And so during this period of time, I would sort of watch him out of my peripheral vision. And if I saw that he was looking up at anything, then I would intentionally move away. I might engage with some of the other dogs. I might engage with him if I felt like he was engageable, right? 95% rule. So I did that. So in that period of a few days, I started incorporating that kind of stuff. And what I can tell you is that by the end of the week, Dylan no longer looked up at the sky at all. Like the sky was just not of interest at all, even when there were birds, like big birds flying by, noisy big birds flying overhead. And even if there were helicopters or low flying planes, he just stopped looking up at the sky. Okay, so stage one, yay, success. Then the next thing I did, the next stage was I wanted to see if I could start looking at the sky myself without role modeling to him that he should be obsessed about what was in the sky. So I gradually and slowly and incrementally started allowing myself appropriate sky watching privileges, especially when I felt confident that he was not like really like locked on to me. Like if I noticed, if he was really locked on to me, like he wasn't busy being a dog or playing or whatever, right? So if he was locked on to me, I did not look up at the sky. But if he was just being a dog doing normal stuff, then I could look up at the birds, etc. And I would kind of keep an eye, side eye on him. And if I saw him starting to lock on to me, I'd just drop my eyes and either just got more casual about it or engaged with the dogs, etc. Okay, so that was my plan, and that was it. So within just a few days, I used role modeling, the power of role modeling, to avoid ending up with a dog who was either OCD or reactive to things in the sky. And it was very, very successful. Okay. So that's it. Now, you are not likely, unless you've been following my principles for a while, you're probably not going to have that level of success right out of the gate. And so I want to give you a few tips that will help you get started. All right. So the very first thing, in order for you to practice good role modeling and for your dog to actually notice what you're doing, right? I want you to, number one, understand that you want to start to empty your stress buckets. And so if you and or your dog are living in a chronic state of high arousal or living with chronic stress, your dog's cortisol stress bucket is full, and maybe yours is too, right? Whether it's because of your dog or because of other things going on in your life. And so I want you to start thinking more seriously about living a safe, calm, and happy lifestyle. And I have a lot of podcasts around that. So go ahead and do some of that work. Start to empty your stress buckets. Number two is to develop a habit with your dog around mutual attentive responsiveness. And so this starts with you being attentive and responsive to yourself and to your own needs and to your dog and to your dog needs. And when you start being attentive and responsive, your dog begins to reciprocate and become attentive and responsive to you. And it becomes like a loop, a dialogue loop. All right. So start there. Start noticing when you can be more attentive and more responsive to what you need, what your dog needs, and allow for that to blossom between you. And then number three is to develop freedom, the freedom to be responsible. And we want our dogs to have freedom, and in order for them to have freedom, they will develop the ability to be responsible. And so being responsible is bringing all these things together. So number one, empty stress buckets. Number two, initiating attentive responsiveness, right? And becoming responsible for being the role model, right? So that's where the freedom comes in. If you want your dogs to follow your lead and mirror your good behavior, which they'll do because it's their nature to do that, then that means that you'll be responsible for being a good role model. And that simply starts by making a conscious choice and saying, I am a role model, right? And that's also about our dogs having the freedom to be responsible. And what I mean is that you're giving them the freedom to choose to be responsible, to mirror us and follow our lead. And they will choose that because they trust us. And remember that all good relationships and partnerships are based on trust. So our dogs trust us to be good role models, and then they will follow our lead, right? It's going to come from them. They're going to offer that automatically. We're not going to elicit that or ask for that. They're going to choose that for themselves. They have the freedom to choose. Just like the stories, these examples that I gave you today, make sense? And so we can choose to be an attentive, responsive role model and loving leader, to choose to empty stress buckets, ours, and help our dogs empty theirs, and to choose to live a free life where we get to be safe, calm, and happy. Okay. And so this is how we get freedom. And that is, it all starts with us being responsible for role modeling and following these tips. Okay. And I think the final thing that I'll leave you with is that it's about believing in living a partnership lifestyle, like believing in yourself and believing in your dog and believing that a good partnership is possible and believing in the vision of what a good partnership with you and your dog can look like. Because I believe it's possible for you, and I'll even go as far as to say it's inevitable when you follow this strategy. All right. So I'd love to hear how you implement these tips to make your partnership and your life with your dog happier and more filled with trust and, of course, with good role modeling. All right. So that's what I have for you this week. I hope that you have enjoyed it, that you'll implement it. And I will see you next week. And in the meantime, be brilliant. And I'll see you then. Bye-bye for now. Thanks so much for listening. And hey, if you would like to work with me so that I can help you discover the missing pieces you need so that you and your dog can finally be happy and enjoy life together, then head on over to dancingheartsdogacademy.com and request your invitation to join us in the Brilliant Partners Academy when the doors open for the next enrollment. See you next time, and remember, a brilliant partnership with your dog makes your whole life brilliant.